folks. Let me get right into it. So my name is Ayesha. I'll give a little bit of an introduction about myself, and I will also talk about Journey Mapping 101. What is it? Why should you be interested? What does it look like? I'll share an example that I made up just to show you what it looks like to follow that process of journey mapping and what kind of, what good you can get out of it. And then, what does that mean back in the workplace if you've conducted journey mapping and now have a journey map? So I've got a little bit of an application slide at the end there, and that'll be it. I would love for someone to keep me on track if they, if we're getting up close to that last bit of time, that'll be saved for Q&A. And then if there's a burning question, such as a word I've used that doesn't make sense, and if somebody's typing it in the chat, feel free, CJ or one of the moderators, to let me know, because I wouldn't want to continue without having clarified terminology that I might be using that is not friendly for all.
Thank you.
So, who am I and why are you listening to me today? I'm Ayesha, and me is actually right here, but on the floor, on the carpet with me. I have been a researcher for a very long time. I counted today 14 years. That's a lot. I'm also a foodie. I love taking pictures of food. I also love taking pictures of flowers and nature. And I'm a huge geek. Behind me is my Lord of the Rings sword. So if you're looking at my sword, it's from Lord of the Rings. So give me a shout out on Discord if you want to talk Lord of the Rings. So yeah, I have my own research philosophy now that I've been doing this for so long. What I care most about is participant welfare. So who is that person that I am engaging? Why am I engaging them as a participant? How will I make it up to them for their giving me valuable information that my company or I will use for my own benefit? Those are some of the things that are sort of built into my research processes. I've also learned how to be adaptable. You all may have heard this word: flexible, adaptable, pivoting, scrappy, that kind of thing in the UX space. And the way that I like to work is really with a united team that works towards an overarching larger strategy. So, content writers, UX designers, UX researchers, visual designers, design leads, it's my experience that this should be a very nice cluster of people that are all work together. We shouldn't really have silos where, UX researcher goes over there and does their work for one sprint, and then the content writer is given a screen and told to write the content. I think everybody should know about the product in, a full way so that they can do their best job. I work currently, I'm a UX design and research manager at Sonnet Insurance. I'm heavier on the research side, of course, because of my research experience that I've mentioned. I'm also a student right now. I'm doing my PhD in policy studies. Don't ask me what my dissertation is, because that's the number one rule when you meet a PhD student. Don't ask them how much time they have left.
That's
okay.
funny.
It's the rules. I don't make them, but they do protect me. So let's get into Journey Mapping 101. So what really is it? Journey maps combine two powerful instruments: storytelling, and that would be the user story, and visualization, which we know is a powerful way to help people understand data, understand evidence. A lot of people do not read slide decks or PowerPoints or reports, but that visual or that infographic, it captures people, and we're very used to that. And there's nothing wrong with that. So a journey map really utilizes that principle and helps us tell that user story. And with a journey map, you and your team can have this shared vision, and that shared vision helps you agree or understand or explore the customer's experience. So without some kind of artifact like a journey map to get everything out on the table, these conversations sometimes never happen. And sometimes designers and UX teams are never brought into these conversations. So it's a couple of things all at the same time. It's an opportunity to understand how a user or a customer, whichever word you want to use, I'm going to use user, how a user goes from the beginning to end of a whole scenario or a product. So what's the big picture? We're looking at the forest when we are trying to journey map. We're not looking at one single tree. It's a visual, oh, your poll popped up. Okay, move that over. It's a visual artifact that helps stakeholders of the product. So those are folks in business side of things, the product side of things, leaders in the company, as well as UX team or design experience team or customer experience team, whatever it's called in your part of the world. So it helps everybody see that big picture, the whole process and the evidence behind it. So from users themselves, not just me making it up or a business person, making it up. Like users are going to love my app. It's not just one person's opinion or one leader's opinion, but it is an evidence-based visual artifact. And because it is these two things, it is also the third, which is a strategic method that supports all of the teams. And with a journey map, you can prioritize, you can clarify, you can communicate, you can align. So it's a very strategic tool for folks to use. I haven't even yet told you what it really, really is or what it looks like, but let's also think about this. So I'd love to sort of make this interactive if I can. So maybe if you can share a reaction. I can't quite see. There you go. I've made it bigger. So share a reaction possibly, or share in the chat how many of these 9 you have ever experienced or related to. If you have ever in your role wanted to improve in your role as, in the UX space, or even as just a human being, maybe, have you ever wanted to improve a product or a service or a process? If you have not been sure how to design an experience or write content for it, or create visual designs for something to best support what the user's goals are with that product. If you have analytics from the team about the performance of your product, but you're not really sure what those analytics are saying or what it is that you need to now do to improve the product. If you want to learn if or how different users might interact differently with your product. So not just painting everyone with one brush, but understanding different users. If you have never ever been in a place where you don't know your users' motivations for using a product or rejecting a product, and you just don't know why do they do it, or why do they not do it? It's such an amazing app. Why aren't people using it? If you want to know how people will interact with it. So if you've been working on an app and you don't know, are people using this every single day, multiple times a day? Is it a once a week thing? Do they come on my website and log in once a year? What is that interaction? Is it on a desktop? Is it mobile app? Is it over the phone? Are they coming to an in-person location? What's going on here? And you have an incomplete understanding of that person's experience. This is kind of similar to, you're seeing sort of the repetitive theme here around lack of evidence. If you want to explore your users' whole stories, so what is this person, what is their emotional state when they are going to interact with my product or service? And then the last one, you don't know if or where your product fits into someone's life. So if you've ever had this kind of a thought, any of these 9, share the number, if it's 4 of them, if it's 1 of them, if you've never had this kind of an inclination, you can share 0, it's all good.
People are popping in the chat box. Some of them say they have been encountered 9 of them. So
all of them, amazing.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good. That means you're here at the right time on this evening, giving some of your time to learn something with me today. And maybe you already know some of this because you're already there mentally. And I love to see that. So this is where journey mapping is amazing for solving some or all of these issues and needs of the designer / UX person. I don't want to pick just one role. I think it's all of them that are impacted. So journey mapping should be based on evidence, not assumptions. So if you are working on a product, writing the content for it, or making the UI, or planning the experience for it, if you have a question about the user, we should not make assumptions about it. We are not our users. We might be a user. So if we're thinking about an app, you might be someone who has an app for, let's say, a bank, a mobile app for your bank, but that doesn't mean you are the user of that should be the focal point of design. So taking your own experience and saying, I would have liked this or this or this, let's go ahead and build it and let's workshop it and let's show it to our stakeholders. That's based on a lot of internal assumptions, right? That's based on your own experiences of knowing tech or not knowing tech, of knowing about banking or not knowing about banking. There's all of that comes into your usage. So if you don't take away anything from this, please just take away that I'm emphasizing to everybody here that we are not our users. We should always gather data from the users. So if you're thinking about journey mapping and you're thinking, cool, I have experienced 1 or 9 of those issues and had that thought, how do I do this? So here's a couple of steps that I've laid out. Here's how you would take this on. And the timeline and resources will depend on where you are in a company or in your own studies or wherever you're at. So you've always got to start with project scoping. Any research or design endeavor needs some parameters. Then you'll gather data and conduct research. So these might sound like they overlap, but one is more about secondary data and internal data and relationship building with stakeholders. And the other one is about talking to real people. So you'll see this circular symbol here, and that's because sometimes you might talk to people first and then gather data internally or build relationships or have those stakeholder conversations. And other times you might find that there's a lot of internal data that people are saying that they know about users, but no one's actually spoken to a real user. So you would gather this first and then you would conduct. So they're kind of circular. It doesn't, both are needed. It doesn't necessarily matter which comes first. You can adapt to what you can get. Then there's an analysis of all of this data, and then we get to the visualization. So yes, it is a powerful visual artifact that incorporates storytelling, but you cannot just jump straight to the visualization. You've got to go through all of the journey. So project scoping, you'd want to figure out, why do you need a journey map? Based on those 9 things I said, or based on, if you're very lucky, maybe the place where you work or the project that you're doing, they say, we want a journey map. So that rarely happens. So if you're not that lucky, you would think of, actually, I need to understand the user's mindset. I need to understand their emotions. I need to understand, what do they do before and after they interact with my product, right? So you would take that kind of a need. You would figure out that a journey map is needed, the scope of it. So what are the parameters, the timelines, resources, and who internally, if you're in a workplace, needs to be involved in the project. I'll also say, for anybody who might be taking notes at this point, that I'm very happy to share a PDF of my slides as you see them. So you are welcome to not take notes and just listen. But if you're like me, then sometimes writing helps you listen. I don't know. It's totally up to you. Then you'd be gathering data, or as I said, you may be in a situation where you talk to people first. When you're gathering data, and I prefer doing it this way because honestly, we cannot knock the importance of relationship building. I know probably 4 or 5 years ago, I'd be like, why do I need to talk to stakeholders? I only care about users. I don't need to hear what internal people think that they know about the customer, right? But getting this alignment and getting this relationship built with your stakeholders will actually help you with your work, because later they're not going to come and become obstacles to the work. And we can talk about that on Discord. I won't go on about that kind of a thing. So when you're gathering data, you would collect analytics. So maybe it's page analytics, maybe it's drop-off rates, maybe it's clicks, maybe it's conversion rates, like how many people come to my landing page and buy my product, right? If you're lucky, you've got an internal team that's collecting these analytics and you would ask them for it. You would get feedback from stakeholders. So people that are product owners or business owners, you would say, what do you know about the customers? What do they go through? How do they arrive here? What do they do after? And just having this kind of a 30-minute conversation, makes them feel like you've come to the expert to get the expert's answers. And it'll actually help you all of this stuff in sort of formulating how you'll conduct research. Because maybe there are some pretty powerful, statistically significant analytics for some of the behaviors that you see. And so you don't necessarily need to dive further into those things when you're conducting research. You could dive further into a different aspect or a different angle. So getting all of this is pretty powerful. Do some light, compilation of what you're gathering so that you can then prepare yourself for conducting research. And you might find that with all of this internal data, maybe you've got a draft of a journey map starting in your head. And if you don't know what one looks like, I'm actually not going to show it until the next slide. Maybe you've got an idea. Oh, people go through this and this and this and this. They're very happy in the beginning and they're very upset at the end, right? So you've got this journey, this end-to-end process already in your mind when you are having these conversations and looking at analytics. From here, you would talk to real people. These could be potential users or current users or ex-users of your product or service. And you want to make sure they are people who've experienced in the realm of the journey that you're trying to map. And essentially if you are able to arrange conversations with these folks, it's as simple as asking them to walk you through the journey. If you are prepared with all of this other data and a very good scoping and research objectives, you'll know exactly when to probe further and what specifically to ask. If you don't, you can start with very rudimentary, asking people to walk you through the journey that they experienced with the thing. What happened before? What did you do during? Was that on your mobile phone or were you, on your desktop? Was that in the morning? How long do you remember it taking? Was it easier than you expected? Was it more difficult than you expected? What do you remember? And here is where you're collecting pieces of this journey map. With all of this data, you bring it all together and you would do a thematic analysis. So in this kind of an analysis, which you can look up more if you'd like, you are grouping things and looking for similarities and looking for differences. So maybe 5 people say the same thing, you're picking up on a theme here and you're picking up on a pattern. From these, you would generate overarching insights. So I'm making this up now, but 5 people said that they were very happy in the beginning, and all 5 of these said that they remember being very upset towards the end of the product experience. It doesn't make sense because I'm making it up, just to give you an example. Mm-hmm. So you are now sort of bringing it all together, and you can't come to the visualization of a journey map until these things happen. So that visualization piece is just condensing it all and polishing it so that you can have something that you can present to stakeholders that is based on thematic and reasonably sound and accurate evidence from internal data and users' data. And you can use any tool to do this. If you are not very visual, go ahead and do it in Excel. I've done that. If you are very visual, like you can use Publisher. If you like Figma, go ahead and use FigJam, you know, any of the tools, Mural, Miro, any of them. You just need to make some boxes and lines and write some text. And you'll see an example of one that I made when we get to that part. Along with this visual artifact, because you can't shove everything into the visual artifact, you're going to probably have a report on the side with the full report of insights, right? So here's all of my data for these 10 people and their journeys. I thematically grouped it and I found these 3 themes. I listened to what they didn't like about the experience, and these are the top 10 things that they didn't like. So you've got that report. It can be wordy if you like. I know I get wordy. And then you have the visual artifact, which will just highlight a sort of polished visual artifact. I keep saying visual artifact. So what should it actually look like? There's a general template. But again, depending on the scope and the needs for your team, it may look different. It may not have all of these things, but you should always aim, if you're doing all of this work, aim to get all of them. So this description is pretty succinct here. It starts by compiling a series of users' actions into a timeline. So it's got to be chronological. What did they do first, second, third, fourth, fifth? And you take that timeline and you attach with those steps the thought and emotion and feeling and pain point and touch point or channel that they're using. You just line them all up in columns, and there you go. There's your journey map. So when it's time to make it visual, you can get creative at that time. But these are some of the basics. So at the top, you might have that project scope. So the context and specifications that frame what you're doing. Then you'd have your high level stages, which is, you know, that column and categorization. Like the first thing that people do is explore the landing page. The second thing that they do is compare products. The third thing that they do is to purchase the product, right? So it's chronological in that way, and you would categorize based on your themes. So all of the rich data goes in between. You might have some quotes. And then if this was part of your research process, or if there's some internal data on this, towards the bottom, you can also share the opportunities that folks are saying. So if they are saying, I was very happy in the beginning, I was really, really annoyed by the website towards the end, I wish that you would make the website X, Y, and Z. Those are people telling you the answers to your problems, right? You can put that in the journey map and you can say 8 out of 10 people said that we need to have better, more simple language because they were very confused. So it's essentially this is it. So yeah, I've told you what it is. I've told you what it looks like. So what I want to do next is walk you through an example. So I've made up this example. Lots of data will be missing because again, there's a whole narrative behind this experience and this journey. I just picked one that could come easily to my mind and be simplified enough to put it all in one slide. A journey mapping process can take you, depending on how much resource and capacity you have, it can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 to 4 months. So I've gone through processes that took 3 to 4 months. and resulted in a couple of journey maps for a product. I've also done something really quickly in 2 weeks based on internal data, a couple of interviews, and then analysis. So here's the problem that I chose. Imagine that you are this, designer or content writer, you're in this company and we are all working together, all right? So the problem that comes our way is conversion metrics for the international student bank account are low. So we work at a bank, and good for us. And conversion metrics is essentially the, I'll say KPIs, so key performance indicators. These are the metrics that the business owners and product owners are tracking. So it could be something like how many people click on a call to action. It could be something like how many people get a bank account with us. So in this case, I have no idea what this line is. Conversion metrics for this bank account are low. That means people aren't buying this bank account. International students are not actually purchasing this bank account. So let's improve. I'm so concerned about who is drawing on my screen. Do y'all see that, or am I just seeing that?
I can jump in. So whoever is using iPad, just be aware of like touching the screen, because you can like actually draw on people's screen. So just, use your erasers, magic one. But yeah.
Okay, all good. So I was just like, how am I doing that? I've never seen that happen before, but okay, perfect. So the problem that we are given is let's improve the landing page to increase conversion, right? Let's improve the landing page of this bank account to help people buy the account. So if you're like me, you're thinking, how do we know that the landing page is the reason that the conversion rates are the way that they are, right? What if it's the product? What if it's the time of year? What if it's the pandemic and there are no international students coming? There's a lot to unpack, right? And so I go back to my questions. I have no idea what is the experience of an international student who is landing on this page and why they are not motivated to buy this bank account. I'm saying buy a bank account, but you kind of sign up for a bank account, whichever word you like to use. So here's what we'll do. These are the steps that I had laid out already. And so here's what we'll sort of go through together. This is all pretend. So in our project scoping stage, we ask, what are the metrics? What does conversion mean, right? Does it mean people are not clicking on the main call to action to explore? Or is the conversion metric that they're not, signing up and going through the entire sign up process, right? So what is the metric? What is the journey of, I have IS here, international students, specifically related to getting a bank account? What kind of international students are we targeting, right? Is there anything specific? So the business owner or the product owner should have these answers and you should all be talking about this. So in my previous bank experience, let's say that they said, there's actually a couple of countries that we're interested in more because that tens of thousands of students come from those countries, but not so many of them are coming from Finland, right? A lot more of them are coming from India and China. And so let's sort of narrow the scope of this project and focus on some countries and some ages, right? Or some kinds of international student. So you've got to have this conversation before, otherwise you will take on a huge project. Then you'd gather data. So, we go to our PO or the business analyst and they give us some of the page analytics. So analytics show us that 1,000 international students visit the landing page every month, but only 100 of them get the account. This is great data, but it doesn't tell us why. Why is it 100? What happened to the other 900? So we go to other teams, and so we'll talk to the call center because banks also have call centers for people who want to call in. And call center data shows us that 500 international students are calling every month to ask more questions about the bank account. So this is really great data, but what does this mean? How do we improve the landing page? What are they asking questions about, right? So now we conduct research. Let's recruit some international students and we'll compensate them for their time. And let's just ask them about their journey. What is your journey specifically in relation to getting a bank account as an international student? Why do you get a bank account? How do you choose the bank? How do you choose the account? What information are you looking for on a website for a bank? What questions would you have and why would you call? So walk us through the journey, but lucky for us, we have these analytics that'll help us probe further. So if we talk to 10 people and 10 people are like, yep, I look online and then I call the bank and then I get the account, right? If we didn't know about these analytics, we might not have caught that we actually need to probe further and get into that journey and understand what's going wrong. So we hear a bunch of stories and we find some patterns about why people get an account, how do they explore, how do they purchase, how do they set it up, how do they use their bank account? And we get all of their thoughts and feelings, what went wrong, what went right. So we take from 10 people's stories and all of this analytical data, and we create one concise journey map using the most important or the most critical information. So you might have to take one person, you might have to take a couple stories and mash them together. But the point is to create this artifact to take it to the team for further, discussion and to open up some conversations about the user's experience. So if you had one user out of 10 who had the absolute best time of their life opening a bank account, you maybe don't want to show that one. But that's stuff you save for your research report. And you might want to visualize something more juicy that helps the team understand, what do I need to do to improve the landing page to increase conversion? So this is what it might look like. I have made up all of this data. It's not completely wrong and wildly made up, but let's say that here are my stages that I discovered. Something triggers the event. So people arrive in Canada and they find out that they need a bank account. So again, I'm saying it's made up because this may not be true. If you are an international student, I apologize, just an example. Then they explore. So they talk to friends and family and they say, oh my God, I just arrived. Hey mom, what do you know about Canadian bank accounts? Or my friend studies at the same university. Which bank account do you have? They might search online, go to a bank branch. Then they purchase. So they'll pick a product and they go through the process of signing up for it. Then they'll set it up. So the onboarding process is when you learn about how you will use the product that you're paying for. So you might need to sign up, you might need to set your password, all of those parts of the process. And then usage. So we can't forget that it's not just about exploration and purchase, but in this person's journey, they also use the account. So they move and manage their money weekly. That's what the bank account does for them. So I've lined up some touch points. I've lined up pain points. So when you find out you need an account, you're unprepared. And people are thinking, I wish someone had told me sooner. They're anxious. And they're thinking, honestly, the university that I'm going to, they should tell me that I need to prepare to have a bank account on the day that I arrive. When they're exploring, they're like, oh my God, Canada has so many banks. The country I come from has 3 main banks, but Canada has 10. How do I know which one I should trust? This is my money. And so their solution is Canada should have less banks. So will we be able to do anything about that one? No, but that's okay. We can let that person have their experience and we can note it down. We can't, we can't do anything about that. When they're purchasing, they're thinking, okay, there's lots of complicated language here. There's all of this bank jargon. And there's some hidden information because they're not telling me how much the account costs. They're hiding the fees. So I'm confused about the features of this bank account. I can't find the fees. I'm confused and I'm annoyed. When they're onboarding, there was no problems with onboarding. They're like, okay, great. I set myself up. I'm pretty tech savvy. That was so easy. And for usage, when they're using it every single day, they might come across pain points like, hey, when I need to transfer money to my family back home, or when my family transfers me money, there's high fees. And that's really annoying because I already pay for this bank account and I also have to pay for fees. I don't like that. International students should be supported. So this is the kind of data that you would get. You might get 10 people's worth of data, and then it's your job to analyze, find the common themes, and surface pain points and solutions accordingly. So you might not do it this simply. You might have bullet points. You might have a couple of points. I've made it up. So there's high-level categories. Under the categories and stages, there's actions. You could list this in numbers. You could be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. For all of the stuff in the middle, you can use icons, you can use emojis, you can use other visual design treatment so that it doesn't just look like a bunch of words that people will be worried about reading and understanding. This is a pro tip from a longtime researcher. Stakeholders love seeing real quotes. It's just a pro tip for you. And then the solution, include data from users. Don't include interpretations. So if you were doing internal data gathering and one of the business leaders was like, we're going to make an app, I don't know, that's an example. Don't put that solution here. This is the safe space for users. So you can make yours look better. Depending on what your team needs, that's what you would want to emphasize in the visual artifact. So if the scope of the project is about emotions for users in this journey, you would want to use emojis and you would want to say happy, happy, oh no, down, negative, right? So now what happens? Also, can someone give me a time check? Am I doing okay?
I am very enjoying all the process, but we do need to like speed up a little bit for some questions. Yeah.
I think I have 2 more slides.
Awesome.
So you know what it is, you know what it should look like. I've walked you through an example and the process. You've sort of understood that it's a visual artifact, but you can't just go from 0 to 100. There's a lot of work. So now what happens? Why did you do all of this work? You would do it for something like this. And I had wanted to make this interactive and I'm so sorry that I can't, but let's say you took your journey map and you took it to a workshop. So you would get all of the right people together. You might need to do this workshop a couple of times with different sets of people, and you would discuss it and you would ideate and you would share all of the overarching insights and you would share the journey map and you would say, given the unhappy parts, how do we fix them? What are your ideas as a team for fixing these ideas or unhappy points? Given the solutions that people have said, which ones are the ones that we can do anything about? Can we make Canada have less banks? No. Can we make the words less complicated and tell people what the fees are in a clear way? Yeah, okay. So that's how everybody gets in on it and they prioritize and they solve. So I had a little area here where I was going to say in this one made up map, there's actually a couple of product solutions that the product and the business development team can take back to work on and see how do we improve this to improve conversion. And there's a couple of UX solutions. So that might be visual or interface or content. Because I don't have time to ask you to point them out, here's what I'm going to point out. So these are in the orange product opportunities. Transferring money has high fees. Lots of people are complaining about it. They might not pick our bank account because we say every time you transfer, it's going to cost you $30. So what can we do about that to get more customers? People arrive here and they had no idea they need a bank account. What can we do about that? Who can we partner with as a company? These are not things that we can solve. That's why these are product focused solutions to take away. Here are some UX solutions. People are confused about the features and they can't find the fees. We can fix that. The bank should tell me about discounts that international students have. So that's an opportunity for cross-selling, or it's an opportunity for education, right? Maybe there's a hyperlink that can be included somewhere to help people, to show you this bank can also give you discounts for this if you get this bank account, right? So we can work on those. And what is the ideal outcome of doing all of this work, all of this research and workshopping and internal conversations and making this pretty artifact and analyzing all this data? The benefits are twofold. First, the process of creating a map forces conversation and an aligned mental model for the whole team. And second, the shared artifact resulting from the mapping can be used to communicate an understanding of your user or service to everybody that's involved. So, breaking that down, I've got these 7 things that I am sharing that I think are ideal outcomes, and they're a win no matter what happens to the product. It's still a win to get this far. Understanding the real causes of problems that are surfaced from the team. So when they say fix the landing page because people aren't clicking and buying, well, we're sort of uncovering that the landing page may not be the problem, right? Relationship building, this is a huge win. So you are doing this on your own terms, not as order takers, but from a place where you're grounded in human-centered research and journey mapping. There's internal alignment on the experience that you can offer or what you can't do for them. So if the product and the business development team is like, there's nothing we can do about the cost of the account. We cannot charge less, sorry. We can't do that this year, maybe in 5 years. Or we can't do that because we're a business and we need to make money, right? So internally align on that so that you know what you're dealing with. Communicating the user's actions, feelings, thoughts, pain points from the beginning of their journey to the end. That is an outcome because it gives you all of these insights. Capturing multiple channels that you are using or not using to interact with users. So maybe people say, I want an app to help me pick, or I don't want an app. You're capturing the channels that they will or won't use. I hate calling into the bank because I have to wait on hold. Like, that's a channel that you can learn about. Last 2, opportunities for additional research to explore pain points and solutions. So if 10 people say, I did not like this page, that might be reasonable, but if only 2 people were confused about one thing, that doesn't mean you change it right away, but you could then maybe create 2 designs and you could A/B test your designs. And then the last one, you're literally getting design and content iteration opportunities from people's mouths, right? You take those, you add them to your product, you can make those iterations. So there's a lot of outcomes. Okay, that's it.
Hey everyone, on behalf of IterateUX, we would like to thank you so much for watching this week's event. If you like the content, please leave a like and subscribe. We'll have events every Thursday at 5:30 Pacific Time. Join our Discord in the description to find out more.